Hey everybody, welcome to the Double Stuff Podcast. We are double the host, double the topics, and double the fun. I'm Sarah.
I'm Charity.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Alan.
Alan is getting better and better with these.
It's like that Mickey Mouse Club opening.
Yeah, I'm Alan.
Say the name.
So for season 8, if you're not already aware, we're doing some educational related topics.
Back to school.
Back to school stuff. So, we're going to kind of talk about, the 3 R's: reading, writing, and arithmetic.
There's an R in there.
Yeah. And since we're talking about in this topic the writing, the second R, because that's how you spell writing apparently.
There's an R in there too.
Which I guess is ironic because we're talking about writing and grammar and that kind of thing. So are you guys good at writing?
Yes.
Yes.
I write real good.
I was.
Yeah.
It's a very subjective question. No, I like to think.
I feel like, at least me personally, I feel like I write better than I
We
talk.
can say whatever we want because all we talk, so nobody's ever seen our writing. So I'm actually a genius with a pen
with a
and
pen.
a font.
Oh, you write in font? What
Comic
does that even mean?
Comic Sans.
Comic Sans, that's Alan's chosen font. Or
Just
Papyrus.
Just sans.
Papyrus is your second choice.
I'm a Helvetica gal myself.
Oh, mine's Futura. If we're picking fonts, I'm a Futura guy.
What kind of font are you, Dan?
I mean, I'm just going to go with Times New Roman.
Oh, of course you
Yeah.
would. The generic, boring.
Just Dan, Times New Roman Dan.
The most legible of all
Yeah,
fonts.
which really
Family.
is not true in the slightest. Mine is more like the doctor's note that you get that you can't read. That's my font.
Like the wingdings.
I was like, he's
like
wingdings,
wingdings, exactly. Or Comic Sans.
Oh, now do we
Apple Chancery.
somehow analyzed ourselves by fonts that may or may not fit our personality. Now, like I said, for me, I feel like I write better than I talk because when I'm writing, I have a chance to
And I
process
can
and all that
attest
kind
to
of
this.
stuff.
You are a incredibly fast typist.
Yes, I am.
Oh, because watching her on Wednesday mornings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I have to show up when Sarah, when you were in the hospital, and I was, typing up the agenda and the scroll and everything. I would have to show up. So typically, you'd have to be there at 8 a.m. I would show up at 7:30 just to be at the same point where Sarah would naturally be at if she had shown up at 8. So I need a half an hour head start in a typing race if I'm up against Sarah.
That's a big head start.
That is
Oh, yeah.
Let's start.
A half an hour.
A, B, delete it.
Well, Sarah in junior high, she actually
I took a
they
typing class.
did typing
Ah.
classes back then because I didn't get to do that either. But
Here's a
they
question.
did typing class.
Did you, in your typing class, did you actually have a keyboard?
Yeah,
How else
well,
do you do a typing
Well,
class?
in my high school,
Yeah.
I had a laminated paper
Oh,
keyboard.
Yeah.
lame
And
sauce.
super lame. And so of course my typing is terrible because it was all just pretend the technology of touchpads that doesn't exist yet exists, and try typing in an imaginary virtual type. And so
Yeah.
everybody was like, "This is
Wait, so
silly."
you had was it like a typewriter? Like
No,
a,
No.
it was
Just a piece of paper because I
that
think
was laminated.
I think I did that my first or
Yeah.
one or two classes. It was just like we just want to know where the placement of the
but I
fingers.
There's
think
no
my
way to
high
know
school-
if you got it right or wrong.
Yeah.
Well, in my high school, so this would have been mid 90s. I think maybe we had, I don't even know if we had a computer lab. I think we might have, but if so, it was probably maybe 6 machines.
Mm.
Yeah, at the school we were at, they recently, at the time, they had recently built a new room for a computer lab.
Mm.
So they didn't even offer those kind of classes until, I think I was a freshman. So I think, so maybe 9th grade when I took typing. And that's one of the few things, and it's because we still use computers right now until we're in a society where keyboards don't exist at all. I still think that people or that kids should still take typing classes. But yeah, I mean, it was just a typical thing where you had to learn ASDF, JKL, semicolon, and you had to do that and then learn the placement, and you couldn't make eye contact.
Yeah.
So you had to make
there's
sure
a
to not
typing
look.
game on the computer too, where a letter would float up and you had to touch it without looking at the keyboard.
Oh,
Remember that?
did we do? I don't remember. We
I
probably
played the
did
game
something
I
without
don't know
like
doing
that.
about
the
that game,
class.
but I agree
We
with
did the
you
game.
because I'm
Yeah.
very kinetic learning. That's why I like audio boards. I like, video switchers and things like. You have to push buttons for things to happen, work levers and turn knobs and things. I like that, but if all of a sudden like a broadcast control room like went to just like a virtual pad or something like Minority Report or something, I don't know what I would do. I'd be like, what's going on? Unplug me from the Matrix.
Well, and it sounds crazy, but I mean, the board at the station had that digital like iPad app that had all the levers and stuff like that on it. So it's not
on the audio board. You're right.
Yeah.
It's a blend.
Isn't that
You're
weird?
right. It is a little bit weird. And I would say for all of us that have used it, I think the only time we really use it is to navigate to where to find the song or where to bring up like a pre-recorded scene for a different show.
But I think that's only because of the productions we do. It doesn't require that.
Yeah.
If we were in a situation where we have to use some of the other presets or whatever, I'm sure we'd be much more well versed. But until we're at that point, we're just doing the basics.
I just I like to feel things.
Yeah,
I'm a touchy guy.
So with that kind of tactical feedback, if you're typing on like a screen, like your phone or like a tablet or whatever, do you use that little like click feedback setting on
feedback?
there? Well, just like when you click a key or whatever, it'll make like a click noise. Because I always turn that off.
I
So
turn that off
zero
too.
feedback.
Now, my parents like to have that on.
I think
You're
older
right.
people do that because I work with people and I can just hear the like I can hear it all over the place.
Yes, but the question is, do they like it or do they just not know how to turn it off?
That's a good question. I don't know.
No, I think they like it.
I think they like it.
Yeah.
At least the adults that I've come in contact with, I think they like to have that.
The button.
You know, you pushed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
I
they
gotta tell you,
can't physically push the button, they can hear the sound.
what's still blowing my mind is, Sarah, you just rattled off all of the keys in order in like the middle of the keyboard. I have no idea where those keys are. Like, I know where they are when I'm typing, but like I couldn't just name it.
It's muscle memory. We spent a whole school year typing, so yeah, I have all the placements memorized, all the numbers and all the function keys and how to capitalize without using caps lock. So I think when I was in high school, I was able to type about at least 30 words a minute.
Yeah,
and I'm sure I'm definitely faster at that now because I've
you're
been doing
way
it for
faster.
so
I could
long.
do 30, I think.
Well, if Alan can do 30, I can do like 600.
I think you're selling yourself
Alan's got to
short.
get himself warmed up and ready to go. before
Yeah.
he can type that many.
Where do you think the layout came from? Because like a keyboard is such a weird sort of like the keys are not in any kind of like what we would think of as like alphabetical order or anything like that.
I think that came from the letters that were most used first.
I
Were in a
think
certain
so.
spot.
Yeah.
I look at some of the old typewriters from like 100, 120 years ago, and some of them have the same placement as keyboards now, but others, they're just everywhere.
Yeah, I know for a fact because I've watched I've gone down a YouTube hole, and I remember seeing a documentary talking about specifically what you're asking about, which is why is the standard for a keyboard, or at least the American standard? No, I think it's international now. It's all
I
pretty
presume
much,
it's international.
Yeah. Mostly,
Why is it the way it is? Because you go back 100 years, there were like at least 10 different standards of keyboards, and even if you go into a courtroom now, the stenographer to be able, or somebody that's doing closed captioning, their keyboard is not the same.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's more like almost in a circle or a donut or something, and the idea is to get it. It's more efficient that way, but for some reason, this I think the answer to the question is IBM, when they came up with their system of what a personal computer is supposed to look like. That's what was shipped. That's what business people learned. And so that's kind of how it stuck and became a standard.
That makes perfect sense. I wouldn't be
I'm glad,
surprised.
because I don't even know if I watched that documentary. I might have dreamt it.
It was infused. We'll take a slight step back since we did do digital.
Delete.
Control Z. Now, on a more analog version, and when you guys did writing assignments in school.
Okay.
Because we used to do this a lot in high school, especially high school. We had to write like weekly journal entries.
Yeah.
And so we had our own, spiral notebook, and we would have to write 3 or 4 maybe not 3 or 4 paragraphs, at least 1 paragraph worth of something based on what happened during the week. So did you guys do a lot of writing in that aspect? Did you like writing for, doing that or essays or something like that?
I did, mainly because I could write. This is going to sound a little bit weird, but I knew that only I was going to be able to read it. It was just for me. And so.
Oh, your teacher didn't read your entry?
I was going to say, the
I had
teacher
that
read
too.
everything.
But I also had like a personal, like just like story journal or something where I would just write like little story journals. But I'd feel a little bit naughty because I'd like write in like bad words or something like that, and I'd be like, nobody can find this. Nobody can find this. I don't want anybody to find.
I said
this.
poop.
Yep. Hey, it's a 4-letter word.
Right.
Well, what about you, Dan? Did you do a lot of writing in school?
I did for the assignments and stuff like that. But as much as I like to read, I was never much of a writer, especially like a journaler or a like creative writer. But I would like jot down a lot of ideas. I never really had I don't know. It never really translated, I guess, from like the enjoyment of reading into directly the enjoyment of writing.
Yeah.
It's always different when it becomes an obligation versus like if it's something that you want to do on your own, like you actually have a passion for it. Like I said, I think we mentioned that in other episodes. When it's become an assignment and the teacher's breathing down your neck to do it, it's no fun. But when it's your idea, then it's like, oh, I like that. That's how I felt about research. I enjoy research now. Hated it in school.
Right.
No, I still hate research.
Well, I think it's a tough hurdle to jump, especially when you're in your teenage years. You're reading really well thought out, well developed stories, and then the best that you can do is plagiarize and just change the names of the characters and the locations of where it took place, but it's basically your favorite story just retold by you. And a lot of people, I think, give up in saying, there's so many good stories that are out there. I can't, after you read Shakespeare, you could be like, well, what do I have to contribute? I mean, it's all pretty much right there. And then throughout the ages, there's a Dickens that pops up, and you're like, well, what in the world now? What do I do? And then there's an Emerson, there's a Hemingway, and you're just like, what, what am I going to do? There's nothing really for me to contribute. And I think it can be daunting, especially if you're reading really, really well thought out books that have complicated stories that tell life in its complications so well, that I think that there's a lot of talented people out there that just feel like they don't have a voice to contribute into the chorus of human history.
All of those people you listed probably felt the same way because they read the classics of their time.
Absolutely.
And so when they were writing their stuff, it was like, well, what am I supposed to write about?
That's it's
an ongoing thing.
They jumped over that hurdle. I think for a lot of us, we see the hurdle and we don't feel like we can. I know that's for me. I mean, I read things that are so unbelievable that I'm like, I'll just keep continuing reading classics. Go ahead.
And see, I always wonder, and I saw somebody talking about this, and I thought it was a really good point. But we read a lot of those classics, like that you mentioned, right, when we're in high school. But I wonder if it would be more helpful in order to like teach young people like really find their voice if they could relate better to like the things that they were reading. Because like somebody pointed out, we read Great Gatsby in when we're like 15 or whatever in high school. How is a 15-year-old supposed to relate to like the miseries of a 30-year-old man in like post-war America? You know what I mean? Like it's such a we expect these things because they're classics, but then like young people can't relate to them, so then they're just like, well, what am I supposed to include? Like my life is I haven't lived half a life that these like people are about. Maybe if we like adjusted some of the readings that maybe they saw themselves better in like some of the readings, maybe that would encourage people to want to contribute more and write more.
Hey, here Well said. Sure.
Look at that, Dan making personal thoughts and putting it all together. I didn't get a chance to ask you, Chair, in terms of your writing. Did you enjoy writing and that stuff in school?
Actually, I did. I did the essays, and this is in hindsight where you forget all the bad stuff. But in general, I enjoyed writing. We did essays and book reports. We had to do poetry. We had to do the journals and stuff. And all that stuff, I always got really good grades on creative writing, all of that. I did keep various journals when I was younger. And what's funny, because I just moved into my new place and I'm unpacking a bunch of stuff that I had forgotten. I packed away.
Found some old secrets?
I found some old journals and I read through it and I was like, oh, how disgusting. It's
that's cute.
16-year-old dribble. I was like, I can't keep this. I'm so ashamed.
So cute. Yeah.
The trials and tribulations of a high school girl.
See, for me, when I wrote, I think for the longest time I wanted to be a writer of some sort, and it wasn't until I got older when I realized I really enjoy writing scripts. And of course, in school, you don't learn about how to write a script, even though
it's useless knowledge.
Well, in a school setting, yes, to go back to our first episode of this season. But one of the first things I remember reading in elementary school and also for like Shakespeare and stuff, we read it and they had it formatted almost like a script. So, the character would say this, you have a colon space dialogue. And so when I saw that, I'm like, oh, I kind of want to write the way this looks. I didn't really know it was a script, but I liked how it looked. Sometimes it was more than just 2 columns of words. It was actually formatted like a little script.
Yeah.
Because they were plays, they were portrayed that way. So one of my first assignments, I think it was 4th or 5th grade, and we had to write about something. So I wrote about a couple that wanted to go on a dinner date, but they weren't sure what to wear. And so the husband's looking in his closet and he's like, well, I could wear my leopard striped shirt with my leopard striped tie, with my leopard striped pants, with my leopard striped shoes. And then the wife goes into her closet, I wear my zebra striped pants and my zebra, so they all wearing these loud animal outfits or something. And then apparently they go on the date, they leave the door unlocked, the kids realize it, somehow they go and give them the keys back at the restaurant. I think that was how it was. But I had it written like a script, and I realized, like in the notebook, I had the
I vaguely
name.
Remember this. Now that you brought that up, I sort of remember that script.
Yeah. So if I was in 4th grade, you were like, what, 1st grade? So you remember this from like 6 or 7 years old?
I actually do remember this story.
Yeah. So like I said, me and Charity have the hand-me-down homework thing where we've kind of done the same thing, just a few years apart.
That's true. We started off at a K through 12 school, so we had the same teachers for a while.
which has its pros and cons, but that's for another podcast called "Why Bad Things Happen to Good People." But but with the writing, so we talk about how good of a writer we are, but do you think you're pretty good at writing not only well, but writing like grammatically well?
Yes, very muchly so.
Oh, I see a nod in Dan's direction.
Dan says nope.
Not even a little bit. I abuse commas like you read about.
Dan wrote one whole book and it's a giant run-on sentence.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Dan's got the let's eat grandma story about saving lives. Dan actually ate the grandma.
If I stop to think about what I want to say next, I'll just put a comma. So that's just me just like, what do I want to say next, comma?
Yeah.
See, I used to be one of the few things I was actually good with at school was grammar. At least the basic, I know you get to past, present participles and all that kind of stuff. Once you start going down that thing, you might get a little lost, but at least basics of, comma go here, semicolons go here, hyphens, dashes, all that kind of stuff. And actually, funny enough, I'm actually kind of wanting to relearn some of that because I am wanting to get better in my writing and I do want to write more grammatically correct. And some of that stuff I really haven't done since high school.
Well, I need to learn that too because I'm learning a new language and I'm having to learn those tenses in French. And I'm like, do I even know this in English?
Yeah. He's so fluent. So really quick before we end it, in terms of English classes, because we talked about writing a little bit, but I know I'm hearing, Dan, it wasn't too good. Were you okay in grammar, Alan?
Yeah, I excelled. In fact, I think I mentioned this before. I went as far as I could in high school, and I actually took a college creative writing class
nice.
While I was attending high school. And if I'm retelling this story to the listener, I'm so sorry, but we
never repeat ourselves on the show.
My English instructor I forget her name. I should, especially if I've told this before.
Probably Mrs. Warble. I think that was the name we chose.
Mrs. Smitherton.
Oh, Smitherton was
Mrs.
too.
Smitherton, yeah. And she loved my writing, and I never went by her syllabus at all. At the time, I was getting letters of invitations to for scholarship letters to play football for various schools. And so all I did was journal these trips that I would take to these different schools and list the good things and the bad things, and just basically everything that happened during. And she absolutely would love it. She would read every letter to these college kids,
Wow.
in class. And I'm sure the college kids absolutely hated me, this little high schooler.
Another letter from Alan.
Yeah, it's another letter from Alan. Let's see what he thinks about this school this week.
And to this very day,
Yeah.
she still uses those same.
I don't know. She really liked it. And I remember the thing that she really liked was how I would closely and analyze the stats of male to female ratio. And like, I probably can't go to school here. There's too many guys. There's not my chances aren't going to be that great or something like that. So.
He's adding math to it. That'll be in a future episode.
Exactly.
It worked out for you, though. I gotta say.
I gotta go to San Francisco.
Then the adventure begins.
That's right.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening to our written word episode sort of kind of thing. If you want to listen to our newer episodes, they're available on all the different podcast platforms. If you want to listen to all of our archived episodes, they're on doublestuffpod.com. Check us out on our social media. It's at Facebook and Instagram at Double Stuff Podcast, and on Twitter at Double Stuff P, and that's the letter P.
Delete.